Hey everyone, welcome to another exciting video. There is good news in Anambra. Yes, Anambra State has finally joined the oil producing states in Nigeria. It's not as if they weren't there before, but the difference now is that they will start receiving the 13% derivation fund, although with some conditions, but we'll get to that later. There are still many unanswered questions about the fund and oil production in Anambra. For example, why has it taken this long for Anambra to start receiving the 13% derivation fund? Because CIPCO has been actively mining oil in Obaru. CIPCO is the operator of OML 143 and the block lies in Ogwibele community in Obaru local government area of Anambra State, with the rest in Rivers State. CIPCO has about 8 oil wells in these communities, and looking at the Department of Petroleum Resources website, this is the most recent publication of crude oil production in Nigeria. As you can see, that of Anambra Basin is curiously absent. There's no other way an outsider can know their actual production capacity unless the DPR publishes it, which they have not done in this instance. Even in the reports of last year, Anambra Basin wasn't included. Does it mean that CIPCO isn't producing up to 120,000 barrels in Anambra Basin? Because according to the DPR, in order to join the states that receive 13% derivation, the oil production in the state must reach 120,000 barrels per day. Does it mean that when a company produces less than this number for a very long time, or even the entire duration of their oil mining license, that the state involved never gets to earn the 13% derivation fund? What happens to the crude oil produced by a company that doesn't meet the threshold? Too many questions that need answers. We'll need to seek the opinion of people who are knowledgeable about this, but that will come in another video. Stay tuned for that by subscribing to our channel and remember to enable notification. Thanks. CIPCO also recently signed a gas development agreement with NNPC for gas production. The gas will be processed in AHL gas processing plant in Kwale, Delta State. If they are signing a gas agreement, does it mean they will be focusing more on gas instead of crude oil? It is public knowledge that Anambra Basin has more than 10 trillion cubic feet of gas. Or does it mean that their wells have more gas than crude oil? Or is this gas not coming from Anambra Basin? It could be Rivers or even Delta. CIPCO also has a plan to build a 650 megawatt power plant in partnership with NNPC. The proposed location of the power plant is unknown for now. Too many questions but no answers. On their website, they say that the OML 143 is in commercial production. If you are a professional in the oil and gas industry watching this video, what does commercial production mean in terms of quantity? Does 10,000 barrels per day production of crude oil qualify as commercial quantity? You can educate us in the comment section. Thanks. Orient Petroleum, which is another company that is prospecting for oil in Anambra Basin, a few years ago claimed that they have increased their production to 10,000 barrels per day. Mind you, Orient Petroleum is on an oil prospecting license, not a mining one, which might indicate that there isn't a significant reservoir in the fields they operate in. Actually, we have tried many times to visit the Orient oil fields in Anambra North, but the journeys have always hit an obstacle. The first time, as shown in this video, there was a protest going on in Umueri, and knowing how restive the place can be, we had no choice but to abandon the trip. A few days after the first attempt, we tried again. This time we went through Nsugbe. But the number of police checkpoints we encountered on the road made us to question them to find out if something was wrong. They assured us that the protest has been called off, that everything was under control, that driving through these communities would be safe. But when we got to Aguleri Junction, we got the impression that the situation wasn't fully under control. So after much observations, we made a U-turn. Make person no talk say they do vlogging, from there enter wahala. So talking about the 13% derivation fund, it is good to earn more revenue because we are a developing nation. The more money we have, the more we can develop, the more infrastructure the government can provide for the population and also maintain existing ones. Because it's not building that is the problem. What about maintenance? There's also a serious concern on how the 13% derivation fund is spent by various states that already earn the money. Since 1999, when the constitutional provision for the 13% derivation fund took effect, 9 of the states that earn the 13% derivation fund have received more than 9 trillion naira. Of course, the states are no longer 9 in number because Cross River State lost their oil wells. They are no longer earning the fund. So if you look at the states that received the 9 trillion naira and the communities where this money should have been spent, they have nothing to show for it. It's a huge shame because the people that fought for the 13% derivation fund to be included in the constitution did it for the betterment and development of oil communities who are directly exposed to the impact of oil exploration. Looking at this table, you will see the money spent by some states on the oil communities. Many of them do not budget up to 50% of the fund for the communities. Also, the recurrent expenditure of the Oil Producing Area Development Commission of many states do receive a greater percentage of the fund. How much is left for physical development of these communities? After all the bureaucracy, to whom much is given, much is expected. If people cannot wisely use the small 13% derivation fund to develop their communities, what will they do if the fund gets bigger? Like right now, the Nigerian crude oil production is lower than actual capacity because of OPEC quota. So if the fund increases in the future, they will squander the money with nothing on ground to show for it. They will build one health center here and there another one and many other projects that are abandoned. Is it not better for the state governments that receive the 13% derivation fund to work out a development plan for these oil producing communities? Housing, roads, water supply and everything that is worth building in these communities. Put them to plan, get a contractor, negotiate the cost and hand it over to them. At the end of every month, immediately they receive the fund, they will pay the contractors. If this is done within 10 years, these communities will look better than many state capitals. The 13% derivation fund is not the only fund that is misused by many state governments. There is also the Ecological Fund, which is supposed to be spent on the communities directly affected by ecological problems like erosion, flooding, landslides, and others, We have a video coming up very soon. We covered a lot of communities in Anambra that are facing serious ecological problems with no help in sight from the government. Make sure to subscribe and enable notification in order to watch that video when it goes live. Thanks. So when Anambra State starts to receive the 13% derivation fund, the authorities should make sure that they do not make the same mistakes that others did or are currently doing. They should spend 100% of the derivation fund in the oil producing communities. Now is the time to make a plan for these communities. Going back to the letter, it seems that none of the oil companies operating in Anambra Basin are currently contributing to the Federation account. Because if they were, it should have been on the DPR list. This letter was shared by the Anambra State Broadcasting Service. It's a reply to a request by the Anambra State Governor to know why the state hasn't been receiving the 13% derivation. So the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission replied him that these 11 oil wells will henceforth be attributed to Anambra State. Then to the condition they added, it is that 3 oil wells, Anambra River 1, 2, and 3 oil wells, will be attributed on a 50-50 percentage basis between Anambra and Kogi states. As you are aware, there is a boundary dispute in Anambra North, the area where Orient Petroleum are prospecting for oil. As a matter of fact, there was an invasion of the area by some people from Kogi a few years ago, which led to the unnecessary death of some Anambra citizens. So the outcome of the boundary delineation will determine how the derivation fund will be shared among the two states. That's if it is not entirely in Anambra State. We'll just wait and see when the result comes out. Okay, wonderful people, this is where we call it a day. And in case you haven't joined the Ned Media family, push the subscribe button and enable notification. Thanks for watching.